Hello, everyone. It's Andrew Bermudez over at Digsy with my buddy Bucky Beeman.
Yo,
And we have a new person in addition,
We
Natalie
do.
Wainwright.
Hello. I'm so stoked to be here.
Yeah, we're so stoked to have you. You're amazing. So today it's going to be a kind of like a little fun, a fun time. So last week, Bucky and I did a video where we just basically presented some tools. You haven't seen that, Natalie, because we
Oh,
haven't.
I watched it.
Oh,
You sent me the
Ooh,
sent me the raw footage, remember?
That's right. I sent you the
I
raw
loved
footage.
it.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah, it was
see-
great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all Bucky's idea, so I can't steal his thought. Today, I just thought Bucky had a great idea to like, hey, let's do introductions so at least the audience and people who are watching or listening to this get an idea who Bucky is, get your history, Natalie, and then they can just get some tidbits on myself. So what I'd like to do is I like to start with Natalie, if that's okay.
If that's fine with me. Is that cool with you, Bucky?
yeah, let's go.
Okay, so kind of introduction to me in commercial real estate.
Yeah,
That'd
just
be
short history, what got you in there, because you have an interesting story. You were actually in the front desk, I remember, when you first started. So it's
Yeah, that's true.
a really cool story. And on top of that, you're a
Yeah.
single mom, right?
I am. Thank you.
No idea how you do what you do, but
Successfully got them to school this morning on time, so I'm off to a good start. Yeah, so I started just over 7 years ago. I started at Cushman and Wakefield as a receptionist. It was like one of my first jobs because I was a stay-at-home mother and a military wife my entire life, and so started as a receptionist. And who became my partner, he hired me to be his assistant. A broker assistant, right? So to do all the mailers and keep him and his then partner, that was a landlord rep, kind of on key. And they said, in a couple of years, we're going to license you, maybe. And I'm like, okay, I'm making really a salary that's a little bit low, and I've got 2 kids. And I thought, no. So I borrowed some money from my dad and got my own license, passed the test the first time, which was like a big deal. I cried because I knew my life was about to change, and sure enough, it did. And so was with them for about 6 months before I started gravitating towards the tenant rep side, and really saw, and the landlord rep was one of the best in this city, but I would see him hang up and laugh at unrepresented clients. Like, oh, it got me another one. Because he knows that unrepresented clients are what? They're not going to know to ask for free rent. They're not going to know to ask for protections with their CAMs and to audit the lead. There's just so much that they're unprotected from. And so it's so much easier as a landlord broker if there's no broker involved. It's been my experience that that a lot of the brokers and the landlords like to have a tenant rep, because then they know that the client knows what day it is. But I gravitated towards tenant rep, and he made me partner, and we were partners for about 7 years. So and then I just started over here at Logic Commercial Real Estate. They are a little bit more of a boutique firm. They have 3 locations, and so we'll be launching their tenant rep division.
That's awesome.
Gulp, right? Yeah. So you guys, this is all coming at a great time. I'm so excited to be here with both of you.
Well, if you need me to send you a bottle of vodka and talk about what it's like to managing people, you can just send me a text and I'll be there.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, I know. I'm going to need some help.
So, Bucky, how about yourself, man?
Well, I just had a couple questions for Natalie, if you don't mind, just because this is really my first time hearing her story.
Let's do it.
I love that. Okay.
What year did you actually become licensed?
2013.
Okay. And being that rep, what was it like for those that haven't become licensed or maybe are newly licensed? Was there all of a sudden business just coming through your door because you're in a firm that has built up business, or, did your day-to-day change pretty quickly, or what was the shift?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the shift, I'm very blessed. I talk to a lot of people that get their license and they're kind of lost. My partner, who became my partner, he was my mentor, and it wasn't even like Cushman with all this big book of business. It was Dan Palmieri with this big book of business, and he literally put me on every deal, and I really got to get my feet wet and be kind of protected because he has been doing it for so long. So it was great for me. It wasn't like, oh, you're not going to eat anything for a year and a half. It was pretty immediate that I was able to make a really nice income and change my children and my life. So I'm a little bit too blessed to like, it's almost like bragging, because I know it's really challenging for other people. And that's why I'm so dedicated to helping people when they first get their license. And, you know, I'll share my templates, because I don't know about you, Becky, but the templates are like, that's gold to a broker. And so for me to share them with competitors in different markets is me saying, you didn't have what I had and my mentor. And so I'm trying to do that for other people, because it's tough, right? How was your entry?
Yeah, so my entry, it was out of high school. I got my real estate license because my business partner at the time was 2 years older than me, and he said people with money have somehow been involved in real estate, so we should go get our real estate license. And we were like young and didn't do the college route, and so I said, why not? So got my real estate license, hung my hat at a residential firm because the broker and the owner of the brokerage, I went to school with his son, so I just knew him. And really didn't sell much real estate for probably 2 or 3 years, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then shortly after 11, I finally started to focus on real estate. In those years, I had a lawn care snow removal business and, you know, kind of learned about real estate from afar. But specifically, one guy brought me and my business partner at the time under his wing and taught us about the commercial side of the business. He could tell we were ambitious, young, hungry, ready to, you know, take over the world. And we were mowing his commercial buildings and doing services at his home. And he's like, you guys got
so cool.
So he's like, if you ever get a lead, you just let me know and I will gladly take you along on a car ride and teach you about the business. And I remember specifically my first lead, I probably installed a sprinkler system at the person's house, and they owned a overhead door company. And they're like, yeah, we're kind of looking for a commercial building. And I'm like, I know a guy. I do know a guy. And I referred him, and I got to ride along and, you know, learn about the business that way. So that was
awesome.
that was my path.
Hey, Bucky,
That's
so
really
you started in residential first?
I did. I mean, commercial in our market, there isn't the big firm. So there's 3 guys specifically that have really owned the market for a long period of time. And it was not, you couldn't just go knock on their door. Maybe I could, but I didn't feel confident enough to just go knock on their door. I just was like, I'll go hang my license at a place where I know someone. And so my first house I sold was to a person that actually provided us the lawn care, the irrigation parts for a system. I was inside the warehouse where they sold them, and she's like, I'm looking for a house. And I was like, I can help with that. And so I have sold some homes, and it's been a good way to learn just how a transaction works through all the documents and everything.
Are you so happy to be on the commercial side? Because I take my CE classes here, it's all residential, and I can tell you that I would never try to represent somebody in buying a home or selling a home, because it seems so challenging. And so, because it's so personal to people, you know, it's their home, it's where their baby slept, and, you know, they're going to overvalue and all the things that could go wrong. Like, do you love commercial?
I absolutely love commercial, but I do sell homes from time to time, specifically rental homes. And it's been a good way for people looking to get into investing in properties for them to start. Now they turn into commercial buyers for myself.
Okay.
So again, back to our market, we don't have a large market where there's specialty tenant reps and landlord reps. There's commercial real estate agents, residential real estate agents, and then there's this kind of in between where you somewhat do both.
And what's your specialty in terms of retail, office, industrial?
Absolutely no specialty besides the area.
You are a jack of all trades.
Yep. So
how big is your market in terms of like how much office space is there? Or how do you know?
Yeah. So no, I don't know. Here's what I do know is it's home of the Mayo Clinic, world-renowned hospital, millions of visitors a year, but the population is 120,000. And so it's a very small market for commercial real estate. A lot of the same.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so you have to do everything because
you do.
I mean, it's such a small market.
Yeah.
120,000. That's how many people are in your town?
130. We'll get the new census soon. Maybe we're up to 150, but yeah, 100.
Still.
Watch
wow.
out.
Yeah, you definitely have to do a lot of stuff there. Well, that's cool. At least you vary it up. Yeah. Hopefully you don't it doesn't create stress, but.
No, it doesn't. I love it. It's you get to taste all different types of transactions, see the world.
Dude, you want to know something interesting? Actually, I have two fun facts. One, actually, I have several friends who are high ups at the big firms and stuff like that, including your ex company, Natalie. And you know how Natalie was saying that, you know, when she got in, she got pretty blessed, and she definitely did. So a good like new hire broker, like a newbie that's never done it before, management thinks they're doing okay and good if like they're making like 60,000 gross within those first 2 years. That means
that's a big deal.
Less than minimum wage. They're taking home 30.
Oh yeah, you're making
50 split.
And that's why a lot of people have 2 jobs. So when you first get in the business, it's recommended that you have like a day job and a night job, because it's so impossible to make an actual living. Yeah, that's crazy.
Here's the other fun fact.
I didn't know the fact was that low.
It's low. Yeah, it's low. At least in California, it's that much. So I can't imagine what it's like in markets that don't have the density that California or New York has.
Yeah.
Another fun fact is last night I was reading through the old LoopNet financial reports, like when they used to be public before they got acquired by CoStar. And I read the one, I was revisiting the one from 2010 because I recall being some information in there that was kind of interesting. And I went and revisited, and I read the whole thing over again. And in 2010, CBRE estimated that the 5 big firms only represented about 15% to 17% of all commercial real estate transactions. So 15 to 17% of all commercial real estate transactions, totaling about $23 billion in revenues.
That's crazy. So who represented the rest? Boutiques?
So yeah, so that's the interesting thing. So there's a lot of individual brokers and boutiques who are local type of individuals, and that's a majority of people. I remember somebody when they were at LoopNet, one of the high ups on the sales and marketing side, telling me, and I don't know if this is true because I never really verified it, but it was told to me that about 12% of the revenue actually came from commercial real estate brokers, in the sense of, you know, the big firms and things like that. So it's kind of interesting to see kind of like what the market dynamics are. And the reason I bring it up, Natalie, is because you represent tenants, right? And like firms like LoopNet or these websites that push the listings directly to tenants and buyers, so that they have access to
which drives me insane. Yeah.
Right. But in those people, there's always that startup or that company who's, you got the CEO bored at night looking on his own and doesn't really have any loyalty to a broker that can generate that. But that's usually the first stop. It's like a LoopNet or a Digsy when they're looking for space and things like that. But it's just really interesting data to find out that, you know, the percentage back in 2010, I don't know what it's like today.
I think it's interesting that that's what you were reading last night.
I am
like,
such a nerd.
That's your fun time? That's your downtime? You read LoopNet stats?
Yeah, I was actually, I read the LoopNet stuff. I read the CoStar reports. I read everything on our competitors. It's
50 Shades of CRE. I like it. Okay.
Yeah, well, you learn a lot, actually, because, you know, they have to disclose stuff that usually somebody wouldn't share with you because they're publicly traded. They share their risk factors with the investors and what their marketing strategies are. And you know what?
Yeah.
Who better to learn from,
I love that.
From companies that have done it before, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And what about your entry?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So mine's actually kind of brief. So just like you, I actually started off as an assistant for a guy named Randy Mason at Lee & Associates in Irvine. And shortly after that, I was just making cold calls. I got my license and we partnered up. And, you know, I was just learning to cold call and walk buildings and do all that stuff. And I lucked out. I used to be, before I started commercial real estate, I was a self-taught programmer. This is back in the late 90s, by the way, so around 99 or so. And a lot of my success was because I knew how to develop like web pages and things like that what people weren't doing. And SEO was so easy to market on Google. Like literally, Gary Vee always talks about this, Gary Vaynerchuk, how like the early days of Google, like you could pay like $1 and make like $1,000 back. Yeah. So I did a lot of that, and I developed my own little programs, and I partnered up with people in the office. And I became vice president pretty quickly there. So I stayed a broker. I started off as tenant rep, right, doing office. And then as my clients, more and more of my clients, since I started in the late 90s, were technology companies. So a lot of them, you know, some of them failed and started new companies. Some of them became angel investors or venture capitalists. And in Orange County, California, you know, we have like the companies like Cario, Broadcom, you know. People don't know that we have these big companies out here, which is really cool.
You guys have a lot of big ones, yeah.
Yeah, CrowdStrike, you know, for example, that does all the stuff, and you hear them in CNN and all these like political channels. You know, there's actually two companies there. Cylance that got acquired by BlackBerry, and CrowdStrike. They're both based out of Orange County. But anyway, I forgot where I was going with this. So I started off as that, and I actually generated a lot of business. So a lot of my clients were technology companies. I also did, traditional stuff like back in, the mid 2000s, early 2000s. There was a whole real estate boom. So represented like residential offices for real estate and mortgage companies. But really what happened is as my customers grew, more of these technology companies did like warehouse and flex space and different things. And a lot of these people had money to deploy. So I transitioned more into, getting listings because I didn't want to give up their relationship for them to go with another broker and have them steal my client. So I ended up being much more of like an office industrial flex, that person doing investments and tenant representation as well. So back in 2012, I had left Lee & Associates. I had saved up pretty much all my money. I don't like to spend. So I started off a couple of commercial real estate ideas that I had to kind of like do technology stuff. And lo and behold, both failed. There wasn't a way to really make money off of them. But then about 4 years ago, we kind of took parts of an old thing that we had done and created Digsy, which is basically just like the free alternative to LoopNet, since now it costs so much to list on all these websites. So we get a lot of inventory simply because it's available for free. And we have some of like the same business models where people can upgrade their accounts to, get more exposure or find tenants faster. We sell leads to tenant rep brokers and landlords get additional services like, hey, push my property to get it in front of, 99% of the audience. I don't know if you guys know this. If you break down the numbers on LoopNet or any other company, less than 1.5% of the properties on LoopNet get a listing inquiry.
Break that down for me.
Yeah. So let's say, for example, we have 100 buildings available for lease on an online marketplace like LoopNet.
Okay.
All right. So only about 1.5 of those buildings are going to get an inquiry from a tenant or a buyer. That means that about 98% to 98.5% of the buildings get no activity.
Why is that?
Simply because of the numbers, right? Like if you have there's a myriad of factors, but I can only talk about our data at Digsy, for example. You have 100 buildings. Usually a good number of people don't go past page 3 of the search results when they're looking for a building. That's 1. 2, it might be poor marketing, like the picture looks bad, not enough information, the tenant being confused. The biggest complaint that tenants have is that they don't know what they're paying because they don't understand what's full service is. They don't understand what triple net is. They don't understand what modified gross or industrial gross is. They just want to know they're all in rent. So basically, the small amount of time that an entrepreneur has to search, which is usually, just a few minutes before they have to, continue to go focus back on their business. They might look at 10 properties, but really they just like 1 or 2. Imagine when you're searching for homes online, Natalie. Right? If you have 100 of them, you're not going to inquire on 10 of them. You're probably going to inquire between 1 to 3 of them.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that means that.
And that's why they need representation.
If you're a listing,
just going to keep saying that. Yeah.
All 100 people looking at buildings and what they're looking for. So you can kind of play matchmaker where like, let's say these 10 tenants are looking for 10,000 square feet in Rochester, Minnesota. Then all of a sudden, Bucky has a building that has no action. Well, the system can actually go and, push that information to all those 99 other people or 98 people that haven't looked at it and make a potential match. So really the magic is in trying to, have the data and kind of play matchmaker to give people more visibility. And that's what people pay us for really is, if you're not getting that much activity, there's additional services on top of that you can go after. But really what we promote is just our free listing service. And this isn't going to be a plug for Digsy, but I'm just going because you asked the question. So
no, absolutely. Yeah. I want to understand better.
Yeah, no worries. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing over at, so you've been over there about a week and a half?
I think this is my 3rd week.
Your 3rd week at Logic. Tell us a little bit about Logic. I looked them up online, by the way, when you popped me that text or that email. I forgot what it was. But it was a tweet, I think.
Maybe, yeah.
But you said that. I looked them up, actually. I didn't know that they only had 3 offices. They have so much stuff that they do And
Yeah.
I got the impression that they were actually like a regional player where like they had like over, 10 offices.
And that's obviously the goal with them. So Logic has been around, I want to say since 2014. I might be wrong, so excuse me if I'm wrong. But I was a fan of theirs for about the last 2 years, a big fan. They have one of the top office teams in the market, people that are genuine and honest and that I loved doing deals with. And they had some of the best listings in town. And so I would be offered listings pretty frequently as a tenant rep because these landlords, they want us because they know we have all the tenants, right? So obviously it makes sense to do buildings as well. But I continue to say no to those. And I would literally, I'm gone from Cushman now. I would refer it to this team here because they are so professional. And they didn't just slap a, for lease sign on the building and hope that they got calls. It was more of like making sure that every building was in front of me. And I was so impressed. So Logic, it's boutique, but our reach is big, and they're huge in the investment sales arena, which to be honest, I'm excited about because I'm a leasing broker, and I don't know about you, Bucky, but I want to get into investments. And so part of my contract here is to be able to pick up and learn on the perimeter with the top guys doing all the investments. But they're up in Reno, and they're looking to open 2 more offices, and so I'm just so excited. It's the week 3, but I can tell you that coming in here it's life finally makes sense. I feel so happy to be here. Yeah. And I feel great to be launching something for them, I'm going to be building a tenant rep team. I mean, it's crazy because there's only 3 in the entire city. So your market's small, Becky, but ours is also small, in Las Vegas. And so our office market is only about 43 million square feet. Which if you look at markets like Dallas and even Orange County, I've done deals in your market, Andrew, and it's so big.
Massive,
yeah. So there's 3 tenant reps, me, and then my amazing old teammates, Paula Lee and Dan Palmieri. So it's going to be something to be able to grow it and have more than 3 tenant reps in the entire city.
Are you like heavy in recruitment mode right now?
The executive team is recruiting for me.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I stay in my lane. Yeah.
If I was just going to say, this is the perfect forum to tell us what you're looking for in case you want to help your team out, but I'll leave that up to you.
Well, Bucky, what he said, I loved what you said earlier, and why you were kind of identified is that you were young, hungry, and motivated, and you'll work your face off from what it sounds like and what I've seen of you over the last couple of years watching you. So
yeah,
that's what I'm looking for.
I'll chime in on, so we just recently recruited a young man that I was referred to from somebody that's a rep for Countertops. And she said, you just need to meet this guy, right? And so he sends me one of his videos, and he's a residential agent, and he's doing videos on how-tos in a home. And you can just tell he's got it, right? I'm
jealous. Yeah.
Straight to the camera. He's got this, ability to be on camera and be entertaining. So I meet him, and I just get to know him, and I talk about real estate and things. And, 6 months into getting to know him, he's just like, I'm kind of looking for a change. And I said, have you ever thought of commercial real estate? And now we're about 6 months into him being on our team. But I think his video content output has gone down because the curve of learning the new industry and the new business
it's a big curve
now. But it's like the signs of him being able to market himself and just put his business out there in ways that the old school brokers are not excited. And that's the type of people that I'm attracted to come onto our team.
Absolutely. Somebody that's going to work hard and is motivated and that understands that there's a learning curve and understands that you're going to kind of eat crow until you learn the market. So these people that I'm a mentor down at the college, and if I ask somebody like, why do you want to get into this business? Why are you interested? And I've had a few mentees and I've had an intern. And if the answer is, the money, I'm like, you're not going to make it, because guess what? You're not going to see any money for a little while. But the people that say, I want to impact my city and I love driving down the freeway. My kids get sick of it. I'm like, Mom did that entire building. Every tenant in there, right? They're so sick of it. They're like, yeah, Mom, we get it. Shut up. But, people that want to impact their city are the ones that I want to have around me, and that it's not all just financially driven, because guess what? That's not going to keep you during the rough months, because there are it takes us. I don't think people realize that we'll have you in our car. We're not getting paid for 8 to 12 months.
No.
you know? So the fact that you were good with your money, Andrew, is great. And I'm sure you learned it through having to, you know, there's going to be a month when no landlords are paying. So it's getting that pipeline really, really full where you're constantly, because I'm not sitting on listings, right? I'm not getting any renewals. So it's keeping that pipeline so packed that you don't have that down month.
Well, you know, this
takes time.
This is actually a really interesting thing. What I like to jump into right now, Natalie, since you kind of went over the fact that, you know, you started 7 years ago or so, and now, and then you kind of were blessed that you got brought into a team that was helped you with deal flow. Now that you're kind of on your own, right? You're taking a little bit of a different position now, where you're a leader rather than just an individual contributor for an organization. I'd like to ask you, and then we'll move on to Bucky, on how you generate your business. Like, are you cold calling? Are you doing mailers? Like, what's kind of
absolutely. Yeah.
That's like the number one thing that brokers want to know is like, okay, how do I keep my pipeline full, and how do I generate deal flow? And, you know, a lot of people know you online, Natalie, because you and Bucky, for example, are just like some of like the top marketers online. So I think that the audience would really enjoy learning a little bit about how you keep that pipeline full.
Yeah, great question. And so obviously leaving a national global firm, let's say global firm, I'm leaving a lot of my clients. I'm leaving a lot of deals. And so coming over here, there's obviously, I think I'm the only broker that's ever had a client in my release give me a quote on why they're coming with me. And so I was able to bring a lot of my clients with me because it's loyalties. My clients become my friends, but also, so I'm building. And so I'm actually I'm hitting the phones really hard. I'm a cold caller. I leave messages. A lot of people don't leave messages. I got a call over the weekend from one of the attorneys that I called. I'm going to call him back today because I cold called him and left a message. So cold calling, rent rolls are obviously Tenant Rep's Bible. So anytime I can get a rent roll, I'm going to put them in my CRM, and I never call and say, hey, you're expiring. It's more of an organic pitch. I'm going to find you on LinkedIn. I'm going to follow your social media handles. I'm going to get you to see why I'm the best in the business. I'm going to get you to see why you should do business with me. And I'm not just a broker. I'm somebody that cares about you and your business. And I could be making a way more money if I took on listings, but I want to be able to look you in the eye and not have any fiduciaries. Yeah. So those are really, it's boots on the ground. It's cold calling in person. I haven't really come up with a better way to phrase that, but, you know, walking into businesses and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. I think a lot of people are afraid of cold calling, and a lot of people are afraid to walk into buildings and introduce yourself because you're vulnerable. If you get out of that comfort zone and you get okay with being rejected, which works in all facets of life, side note, then you're able to achieve a lot more. So it's definitely cold calling is my big one.
So let me pull the thread on that a little bit now.
And word of mouth.
Okay, so word of mouth, I think, what percentage of your business would you say is word of mouth?
Probably about 20%.
Cool.
Yeah, and through the organizations I'm involved with, I'm in CCIM, and so Crew's been a great resource for me to get business. It's just through word of mouth. Like, hey, Natalie, I can sit down at a table, and I've at least done one deal of somebody sitting at that table.
That's great.
Yeah.
And what percentage would you say is, so you were tenant reps, you weren't getting inbound calls. How about the other, is the 80% like cold calling, or are you doing anything else? Like, you know, are you sending out mailers or case studies, or are you just like, hey, here's the people that I want to target. I'm going to pick up the phone, call them, follow them on social media and LinkedIn, and forge my relationship with them, and then see if I can work with them.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then LinkedIn is a huge source of business for me.
So walk us through that so that people understand kind of what your workflow is, Natalie, and you don't have to give away all your secret sauce, but what's kind of like a cadence for you, right? And by cadence, I mean like step by step. All right, you identify a company that you want to do business with. And let's say, for example, you want to do business with Zappos, right? Who's in your market, and, or Tony Shea. And then you say, okay, my first thing's going to be a call, a voicemail. Next day I'm going to add them on LinkedIn. Then I'm going to send them a message on LinkedIn or blah, blah, blah. Kind of what's your cadence from like 0 to 1?
Yeah, I'll totally give you the secret sauce. If we could do a snippet of this, I think this could help a ton of brokers and every market, including my own. So I find a company, I identify a company. I thoroughly research the company. I want to see if anybody represented them in their last lease. I want to see when they occupied. I'm going to drive by their building sometimes. I'm going to look up their building 100% for sure. Put the company and the top contacts, decision makers in my CRM, get as many phone numbers and email addresses as I can. I'm going to follow all of their LinkedIn. My CRM, that's incredible, automatically links to their social media handles. And I'm going to start following them and liking their content. It's not going to be a disingenuous where they root on for their football team and it's not my football team and I'm clicking like on that bad boy. No.
You're being genuine.
It's going to be a genuine interaction. And then posting, once I link in with them and they accept it, I'm not going to immediately hit them up. I think if you link in with somebody and you automatically go for an ask, I personally hate when it's done for me.
I hate it.
It was done to me about a week ago, and I sent a quick email like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and follow what you asked me to follow, but maybe with other people, you might want to not just go in for an ask. And he really appreciated the tidbit, which I thought was great because I didn't who am I to give you advice? But it hits me wrong. Don't ask me for something.
So I have two questions along this line. Don't lose your thought. So what's your CRM? And then are you adding, when you add people on LinkedIn, are you adding a personal note?
Typically I do. And it's typically just, I hope you have a great week. And I'm genuine in that. And I'll just let it lie. And if they accept me, I don't send them thank you for the ad and then I go in for an ask. It's just a genuine, kind of like do you guys agree with me when you link in with somebody? It's almost like it's a warm touch. Like now we're linked in with one another.
Yeah, they've opened the door and let you walk in through and join the party, really.
Yeah, exactly. So they're there, and then they can kind of see how many mutual contacts we have. I had a great meeting last week based off LinkedIn. And the only reason he took it is because we had a mutual friend that he really respected. And I happen to really love this person as well. So that's the only reason he gave me the meeting. And he's huge in my city. So I think LinkedIn is the perfect way to get in with people and kind of learn about what they're clicking like on and what they're posting. But that's the cadence for how I go in for the kill is then I do make the call. So they're in my CRM and I log that I called them. You asked about my CRM. It's called the NAV CRM. It's developed by an ex-broker, and I was so tired of CRMs. I tried every one, and I said, unless you fly here and show me how to use it, I'm not using it. Yeah. And I regret that. You know how you kind of look back at things in your life, and you're like, man, I was a real jerk. That's one of those moments in my life where I think I was a little bit big for my britches, but they did fly in, and I've been using it ever since. And so then I go in and I log the call and I do leave messages, like I said. And the call isn't like right now I'm high energy because I'm excited to be talking with you two. Super stoked about this. I've been looking forward to it. But on a call, I'm much calmer. And I'm much more about them. And so what's going on with your office space? And they're kind of like, oh, she's not eating my face off. This is great. And then they just kind of give me the info.
Are you paying for the LinkedIn Sales Navigator for like the premium version?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Most people don't do it. It's unbelievable. Bucky and I were talking about this last week.
I don't understand.
I don't either. You know who I learned? I learned how to use LinkedIn actually I'll tell you, here's a really short, fun story. So back when, I want to say in the mid 2000s, I had a client that got referred, super tiny client. They needed like 500 square feet of office. But I was referred through a really good client of mine, and I had been in his industry before starting commercial real estate. So I really felt connected. So I helped his buddy out. So we're putting in a proposal in a 700 square foot office. I'm going to make I'm going to write this guy a check to rep him because I'm going to make no money. I'm spending more money and time and energy, but super nice guy. When I get his financials, I'm like, how is this guy working out of his basement making $1 million a year in his tax return? Ends up being that this person is a recruiter. Right. So like they help companies find technical talent.
Yeah.
And he showed me how he uses LinkedIn. And then I stole that and I used it in commercial real estate. And I think, my sales went up probably like in a period of like about 18 months, went up like 30, 40%.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's my question. So when you add people, so you're adding a note, hope you have a great week. What are you saying when you call them on the phone? Like, are you making it about real estate, or are you finding a way to like forge the relationship so you can get in front of them face to face? Like, kind of what's your strategy on that?
Yeah, I think my strategy is to genuinely call. I do bring up real estate because that's what I do. But then I also so I'm going after a huge electronics company right now. So my call to them, for example, was, hey, that we're the convention, almost the convention capital of the world as soon as we finish our expansions at the convention center. And about CES that's coming? And let me tell you why you should have a location here. And any company that I call, it's tailored to them. If it's law firms, I kind of go, hey, I just represented somebody in your building, or I just represented a law firm around your same size. So that way they feel like they're getting a little bit of an inside scoop, and I'm already showing value, and I'm already saying I recently represented. So they know that I'm not, and I say this respectfully, like a resi-mercial. We have those here where they're 90% of their business is homes and then 10% is commercial. I don't agree with that, that way of doing things in our market. I think that you're doing your clients a disservice, because that 10% is, you're not learning all the landlords, you're not learning the market, it doesn't work here. But that's the way that I and I'm super calm and make it really less salesy and more about them and if I can help them. And some of them are like, I don't have any needs right now. And I go, but it still seems like you're a good person to know. I just did this with this huge gaming company, 30,000 square feet. I said, it seems like you're a really good person to know. Would you mind getting coffee with me sometime? I'd love to see if there's any synergy in what you and I do. And he took the meeting, and I've got a meeting in January. So just turn it into a relationship.
It's about relationships for sure. Cause I don't think most people understand that calling on lease expirations and doing that. I mean, they get calls like that every single day. I get emails now that I'm away, not a broker anymore. And, I've been doing technology. I get calls from everybody, from commercial real estate brokers to people trying to sell HR, to people try to, all kinds of stuff, like recruiters we get bombarded by. And it's always like the same thing. It's like, you have a need? No. Okay. I'm not interested. But these types of, this type of business is really like, I need a resource. It's the same thing as like hiring an attorney, right? If I'm starting Digsy and, we've raised a few $1 million to build this company, am I going to go to LegalZoom to put my documents together? Or I'm going to ask one of my friends who's built a company, who has had an attorney who knows how to do all this stuff.
Exactly.
It's going to be like that, right? So it's all about that relationship that you have in people and word of mouth, really. So I think it's awesome that you're sitting down and making time. That's the number one thing that I think that brokers who take a long time to understand what they need to do is like, they need to figure out a way to get really good at booking those coffee meetings and making it so seem like, hey, I know you don't have a need now. Or you might not have a need in a year or 2 years, but I like to get to know you. And I think Bucky's awesome because like what he's doing is he's kind of doing this through video. He's creating a relationship with people who see him on LinkedIn and all the social networks. And
branding yourself as a resource in real estate. That's genius.
Meeting somebody for coffee. He's like taking us into like bakeries. And, I just saw his video in this Mexican restaurant that just opened up and it looks awesome. And it's got gigantic burritos. So I'm like making a list of all the places that I want Bucky to take me to. But yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's an awesome approach. What about you, Bucky? Like, I know you're doing the video, but what's your approach to generating business? Like, for example, in comparison to like Natalie?
Yeah. So it's funny. I hear you, Natalie, and what you share, and I'm just like, I am so not planned out and thought through in what I do. And I don't know if it's a strength or a weakness or, it's different. And so I think being in a small market, the relationships matter all that more. And the reason I say this is like you had come up with the strategy of looking at rent rolls. I don't dare do that in a small market, because if I call on rent rolls, the landlord that I also know is going to be absolutely pissed at me that I did such a thing. So I never, and not that maybe it's not a good strategy
really
in our markets.
That makes sense though, Natalie.
It's because I know every single landlord, and I do not want to steal their client in a intentional way, because that landlord more than likely is going to do business with myself or our firm in some way because of the small market that it is. At some point, our paths are going to cross, and I don't want blood. So anyways, I don't do that. I am very much out there with social media. And the reason I'm out there with social media is to build brands so my name gets passed. And my name gets passed, I would hope to say 90% of the time, 80% of the time, it gets passed a lot. And because of that, I get introduced to tenants that are all the way from just an idea phase and they want to start a business to they're coming into the market, and it just so happened someone heard they were coming into the market. And because I'm out there online and not afraid to put my face out there, my name gets passed around. I do not have a CRM. I've tried them. I am not good at them. My latest thing is simply a spreadsheet. And I would say with the help of my two team members are doing an okay job at it, but I am not a CRM. I just don't keep up with it. I try, I just don't. And so that is one of my weaknesses. One thing I wrote down here is, my best clients are the ones I've built relationships with, and they've started very, very small. So I just wrote down some of my best clients. This one, the first one specifically, I brought him tenants for small office space, and I helped fill up. And this was the first office building he purchased. He owned a restaurant, bought an office building to get into investment. I met him by bringing tenants, and I filled up his office building. And then he's like, "Who are you? What are you up to?" And I'm young, and he just wanted to get to know me more. Well, with that partner, we've gone on to, as partners, acquire buildings together that we own together, and I'm doing the leasing on it, and I'm helping with the entire strategy of,
that is so wonderful.
How do we fix it up? How do we make it feel? How do we change the community? I think that's the great thing you had shared. Commercial real estate can change the community and unlock opportunities for people in the community, and that's what we're trying to do. So that's one of my best clients, and I just met him by bringing tenants to his office building. I wrote down another best client. He started with simply an office space, and now he's on to buying a business that has real estate, and I'm helping him with this entire transaction, from the assets of real estate to, just a new chapter in his life. He's excited to bring his kids into this business and really see what they can do with it. Another great client for me and how I got them was a referral. So a veteran in business in our community referred me to a middle-aged man that, was looking to get into real estate because he had a successful business, and husband and wife team have gone on to buy approximately 3 apartment buildings with me. And this is how far I go in relationship. They just left 2 days ago, and they gave me the keys to all their buildings. And they said, "Do you mind if we just call you if in case an emergency pops up?" Right? We just would like to know that we can trust, that we know you'll be there, but we just would like to know that we have somebody that has the keys that we can trust. They do all
That's a lot of trust. Wow.
They own 100 units. They are now into commercial ownership, and they're just like, we just want some. So that's how far I go as a advisor in a small market, to be like, I'm your guy. Like, what do you need? You need me to take out the laundry? I'm there for you. I don't care.
Yeah.
And their family sons have gone on to buy real estate with me. I just helped their one son buy a house. So just a part of their whole story. Another one, and I'll get 2 more. So another great client of mine, he recently passed in the last 3 years, but I started by bringing him small office tenants. He went on to help me finance a building that I bought on a contract for deed. He bought it for $225,000. No, sorry, he bought it for $200,000. I bought it back from him for $225,000. I went to work to fill it up. I had my office there for a period of time. I rented out garage bays just to make payments. Now it's a micro cinema. It's a movie theater in a small environment.
That is so great.
And this guy started with a single office space, right? I just brought him a tenant. We got to know each other. He was an awesome man and helped me a lot. And then the last one I'll just wrap up with, you mentioned the Mexican restaurant, Andrew. So my business partner that I own real estate with heard about this Mexican restaurant that wanted to come to the market. He really found the opportunity of this building, but then brought me into the fold to help out, 1, with the lease, and 2, be a part of the ownership on the asset. And so that again shows, it's in our market, it's relationship driven. I wouldn't say I have, great ways of keeping track of who I'm talking to when I'm talking to them, but I'm over servicing those that are close to me, that we're friends, that we do business and do life together. So that
speaks volumes.
That's awesome.
Those stories all speak volumes to what kind of broker and person you are. That's wonderful.
Hey, Natalie, quick question. So I want to ask this to you and Bucky. Some people know that you're very active, Natalie, on social media, so on Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. How has it helped your business to be so active on those 2 channels? How has it helped your commercial real estate business?
It's profoundly impacted my career professionally. It's been absolutely crazy. So, Twitter is a huge way for me to make personal connections. I don't know about you, Andrew, and you and I have been going back and forth for it feels like, 3 years. Does that make sense?
2. I think 2.
2? Yeah. 2 years. And I don't know if you've noticed about me is I share, I think everyone knows I'm a mom. I think everybody knows where my heart is and what kind of clients I service, and that my specialty, I meet people. I went to Dallas, and I've never been to that city before. And I walked into a Cressa office, and two people said, "You're that girl in Vegas." I've never been to Cressa. I've never been to Dallas. And I can't tell you how many times that's happened, or how excited people are to, and I say this humbly, this isn't like, oh, I'm so great. This is just because I've created this online, people get to see my universe. And I share it in a really authentic way. And when I have a bad day, I share that too. So people are so excited to meet me at functions that I've realized that unless I meet them with the same level of excitement, they're incredibly disappointed. I don't know if this happens to you guys.
Yeah.
Or that I share so much on Instagram stories when people know me. So they come up to me and I've never met them before. And they're like, "Oh, your son plays football." And I'm like, I have to meet them with the same level of excitement, even though I have no idea who they are. And so that's what I've done, is I've used social media to leverage my life, and that I'm active in my community. People do business with people they like.
Yeah.
They want to know that I represent nonprofits. It's not a big moneymaker. Like you said, Andrew, I mean, we're writing them a check, which I do. I give back to every nonprofit that I'm a part of, and I sit on their boards. People do business with people they like. So giving them that opportunity to get to know me, and then branding myself with other brokers. It's my hope that anytime anybody needs real estate, I don't care what you need. A big part of my business is handing out. I give out like 3 retail leads probably every 2 weeks. So working here, I'd never met him in person before, but I gave him 2 retail leads before I even came over to Logic. And so we met for the first time a week ago, and here he's doing these massive deals for me. So it's a huge revenue source, and then also leads that I can funnel into people, because I stay in my lane. I don't do retail or industrial. So giving those to the pros. And it literally all comes from social media. LinkedIn is huge.
Are those other brokers that are referring you business, or are there like the companies reaching out to you individually because they saw you
on? A lot of brokers.
So the referrals from out of market or within your same market?
Within my market.
Within your market.
Yeah, because they don't have, because Cressa, Studley, Moore Partners, they don't have offices here. So they need somebody with a Nevada license.
Yeah.
So they'll call me. Like I do all of Moore's work here locally, MOHR. They're a firm out of Dallas. And so anytime they have anything here, I help service them.
That's awesome. I didn't know that Moore did business out there.
Yeah.
They do a lot.
Yeah. And I've done deals with them in Rochester. So they've leased some office space. Well, but their clients have, and then I've become the local rep for them as well. And I think that plays to the part that you're the local expert. And that's the same thing I'm doing in my market, is like doing everything online to show that I am the local expert. And
exactly.
They find this is the person to go to.
And attorneys that do real estate, like if they need an expert for one of their clients, it's free advice. I don't care. But a week later, I'm getting a deal from them. So it's just branding yourself as that expert and a resource that I don't expect anything in return. And I just give a lot. And then hopefully things come back, and they do. It's the way the world works, right? The more we give, the more we receive. So that's why I do it.
What do you guys see as far as like, what do you guys expect in 2020 as far as, marketing channels and like revenue generation for yourselves? Like, do you guys see any trends, or do you think it's going to be sort of like the same things like the Twitter, LinkedIn's, just continue to go down that path? Are you guys seeing anything at the forefront that you think that you're excited of a new opportunity or channel to jump on? I know that, for example, that question for you, I know one thing, Bucky, is like you've been doing a lot of stuff like on TikTok, for example. So anyway, if you want more clarification on the question, let me know. But
do you really do TikTok?
Yeah, I am trying to keep up with Eddie Gonzalez out of Arizona. That guy's crushing.
Oh my God. He's absolutely one of my favorite people in the planet. So let's not even go to Eddie Gonzalez. So, Arizona Eddie is what I call him.
Exactly. Arizona Eddie. Yeah. And on TikTok, I'm not kidding you, he is becoming the Arizona aerial guy. And because he's the Arizona aerial guy, ultimately he's becoming the Arizona guy. And ultimately he's going to become the broker in Arizona. And people won't think about different areas in Arizona. They'll just be like, no, you got to talk to Eddie. I mean,
talk to Eddie. That's what everybody needs to be doing.
Doing a great job. The thing, to answer your question, Andrew, I'm most excited for. So early on in my business, my secret sauce was LoopNet. I was the first person on LoopNet 2009, 10, 11 in our market, and the old school brokers did not use it. And because of that, I got a ton of leads. It was awesome. It's a now noisy and expensive space. And so it is not my secret sauce anymore. And I'm trying to figure out ways that I can deploy the money that I've deployed into them in other ways, and also add to that fire, add money to that marketing budget that we've allocated personally and as a brokerage. And so my secret sauce, the thing I'm trying to do is get marketing dollars for each individual listing that we get, not only from myself dedicated to that listing, but also from the people that own those properties, and deploy that money into platforms like Facebook, like LinkedIn, their ad manager, targeted demographics that meet the legal requirements, trying to push them to a landing page where people will inquire on property. So that's really the thing I'm trying to build out. I'm most excited in 2020. And I think that will be my secret sauce this year.
That's awesome. On my end, I'm excited to not work for a global company anymore. For the reason, in a publicly traded company, for the reason that I kind of got in trouble a lot with my social media. They were very warm about a lot that I did. They recognized it and fondly, but I would also get kind of wrist slaps on my private accounts, in which I think, my Instagram is a mix of my family, and work. And I would get, little, you're doing too much, or you can't post that, or, you can't wear that. And so working for Logic, part of me coming over was them understanding and agreeing to the fact that it's me, it's my business. I've only branded myself. I think that everyone knows me, Natalie Wainwright, tenant rep, versus Natalie Wainwright, Cushman & Wakefield. And so I've done that. I'm bringing that brand here. And so I love Instagram ads. I'm going to be deploying a lot more money. I've already deployed probably $300, and I've been here for 3 weeks. And so before CES, I was sending an ad, CES related ad that I created myself with my Ripple app, RIPL, amazing app, about CES, and I deployed it in Silicon Valley and in Southern California. So I will continue to do marketing and strategic marketing, and not having to get the okays from any higher ups, because the higher ups here completely have faith in me, and they're even deploying their own marketing dollars behind me, which is a whole new bag for me to have a company completely back me in so many different ways. And so definitely strategic ads on Facebook and Instagram. And I want to get into LinkedIn. I want to get into strategic sponsored ads on LinkedIn. So that'll be something that I want to conquer. Bucky, it sounds like you need to conquer CRM, sir, and we'll talk offline, because I think that you're so successful now. I can only imagine if you had the power of a good CRM behind you. It changed my life. So that's why because I was doing that too. It's like the spaghetti on the wall, and then you got spreadsheets, and you start a new spreadsheet because you're all excited. And I don't know, life's a lot easier with my CRM.
Have you guys heard of a tool called Nudge? So Nudge, Nudge. I think it's nudge.ai or nudge.com or something like that. Let me just look it up here.
I've never heard of.
So you guys should check out this. It's nudge.ai. So basically, what it does is it kind of mines your address book and like any data sources you give it, like social media, and it surfaces up opportunities and how you're connected to them to kind of like break that barrier. A lot of the stuff that you're already doing, Natalie, which, for example, researching the company and stuff like that, it'll kind of like supplement that with a little bit more flesh around the bones.
I'm going to check that out. Nudge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nudge.ai. And, another thing too, for not only you guys, but the audience, is there's a fantastic podcast, especially if you're in a sales role where you're an individual contributor, like, Bucky is, yourself, and even me. I'm the CEO of a commercial real estate listing service for tenants and buyers, right? How do I benefit? Well, I'm doing a lot of the strategic, enterprise sales along with my team here. So I use this tool, regularly, because it shows me, okay, I'm connected to this person because Natalie knows that person or something like that. So it's a way for us to bridge together and kind of supplement each other's
That's
network.
wonderful.
So for example, a thing that I always do, and I was showing Bucky this on the last episode that we had, is how I use LinkedIn. Let's say, for example, I'm targeting Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce. I'll look him up on LinkedIn, and then I'll see our mutual connections. And then I'll see that, one of my mentors or one of my friends knows him. So I'll call that person to make an introduction. or sometimes the introduction is not of value. So I find other ways to kind of create that relationship, like you're saying, like follow them on social media, don't push. You know, I absolutely hate going for the ask right away. I hate going for the ask any other way. I like it to be much more organic than anything else. Yeah. And I think that's what, like, you know, being top of mind by being on Twitter or LinkedIn and posting stuff is. Anyway, so nudge.ai. And then the podcast I was going to say to check out, you absolutely have to check out Sales Success Stories with Scott Ingram. He interviews, Scott's amazing. So I found out about this podcast probably about 2 years ago. And basically what he does is he interviews the top salespeople at all kinds of companies, from like Cutco, you know, like the door-to-door knife selling company, to technology companies like Microsoft. And he interviews the top 1% of the salespeople and business development reps of those.
Ooh, I'm gonna check that out.
So much good information.
Yeah.
So much good information. You know what's actually pretty awesome? There's a lot of ladies out there on that podcast that just crush it. And every time I've heard, you know, anybody on there, it doesn't matter if they're male, female, or whatever, there's always, in every episode, there's like this one nugget of like, wow, why didn't I think about that? And I would really suggest, and I'll link it in the show notes to Sales Success Story. You guys have to check that out.
I absolutely will.
Cool. So let's wrap up, if that's okay. And Bucky, you know, what opportunities are you looking for here in 2020, and how can people get a hold of you?
What opportunities am I looking for? I'm just looking for more people in our industry. I mean, that's that connection, I think, to our industry doing better as a whole, and myself unlocking, you know, a unique opportunity. So just connect with me on the different platforms, connect with all of us. That's really one of the big opportunities I'm looking forward to, is growing this network. And you can reach out to me on any social with my name, Bucky Beeman.
Cool. Natalie?
Opportunity, looking for obviously anybody that needs office space, right? Any users. Actually, it doesn't matter if you need office or whatever. I want to be that person, and then growing my network, and also getting tips of Titans, right? Tools for Titans, and the top tricks of the people that are making it in our industry, because we're such a unique, wonderful industry. So I'm definitely going to check out that podcast. And people can find me Natalie_CRE10X, Natalie Wainwright. I'm pretty much all over. So anybody that wants to connect or needs anything, I'm always around.
I will link both of your contact information here in the show notes. All right. So I'll just, you know, go for myself. If any of your friends, Bucky and Natalie, and anybody out there is sick and tired of paying an arm and a leg to list property online so that you can expose it to tenants and buyers, go to Digsy. It's free. You can start listing all your properties, and you can do that. If anybody has any questions, I know Natalie and Bucky welcome you to reach out to them via Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. All their contact information is going to be in the show notes. And other than that, I'll let you guys go. And you know, we were right about an hour into this episode.
This is awesome, guys. Thanks so much for inviting me. I feel
no problem. Yeah, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week or the following.
Thank you.
Perfect. Bye,
all right, guys. All right. Have a great week. Crush it. Bye.
Bye.